Hello there guys, welcome to today's Raw Reflections podcast. I have Erin, Nicole with me today.
Hi!
We are going to be talking about some of those limiting beliefs that we dealt with growing up in religious households, some of those perceptions that we built around our sensuality and femininity, and how we've discovered our truth in our adult lives, and whether it was a perception we created on our own or it was created for us. Some of those things that we need to address as adults and figure out whether we want to hold on to those anymore. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So, Erin, do you want to share a little bit about your experience with this upbringing and versus your adult life?
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in the church with my mom. She took us a lot. And of course, when you grow up in the church, especially in our parents' age, everything was very strict, like by the book.
Yes. Literally.
No, seriously.
No method of interpretation at all. It's not like Jesus spoke in parables.
So, of course, the huge topic that goes out is sex. And not to have sex until you're married. About the shame that can come with it, the guilt that can come with it, the diseases that can come with it. All this, the list is long. It's endless, right?
And you mentioned, like, sometimes the only reason is based on something that's fearful, like it's oh, if you do this then you're gonna get this. They want to make it as scary as possible, kind of
so
thing.
You don't do it.
You don't do it. Yeah.
But what's in our natural mind to
right?
To do.
Don't open that door. Oh, I'm gonna open it more. Don't touch that. It's hot.
Still am. And
that's just a rebel. And
because I didn't follow that guideline, then for me it was this shame that I had done something horrible and bad, and that God, was gonna be mad at me and all this and that. And it wasn't until I was older, probably, if I'm honest, within like the last year or two, that I started to shed that mentality that I've carried for so long. I remember moving to Atlanta in the beginning, and I was under a ministry that talked really heavily about modesty and what modesty was. It's like if you dress a certain way, dress comes to your like knees, don't show too much cleavage or too much skin. You want to leave something up to the imagination of a guy.
Yeah.
And let me not just put on that ministry, because now that I think about it, after I just said that, I remember my mom telling me that when I was a kid one time. Now I see what she meant by that, but there was no explanation as to why. It's just like, oh, that's too short. You don't think that's too short? You don't think that's that? And I'm like, I thought it was cute.
I feel good. Like
I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And so I became like fearful to show off certain parts, wondering in the back of my mind, what was that going to look like to someone else, versus me being comfortable in the fact that I like my short shorts. I like the fact that I have on a halter top and my back is out, things like that.
Yeah. So, and some of those like body parts that like we grew up thinking were sexual, or like what, and we're like, wait, I can have a shirt that's lower than this and it's not.
Or you can have some cleavage right here, but because it shows a little side boob, it's kind of like, it's a bad thing. And I have long legs, I'm tall, so
all your shorts are too short.
And I have long arms, so it's kind of like I'm a long-limbed person. So it used to make me mad even in school when they're like, oh, your skirts or your shorts can't come above the tips of your finger. Well, then mine might as well just come to my knees anyway, because my arms
are so dang long. Yeah.
So that was like another thing that added on to the already thought process. So you kind of can imagine over the years like what that's done.
Yes. I grew up, my mom was always the homeschool group leader of all of the homeschool groups I was in, and these were Christian homeschool groups, so they were always very adamant about the modesty standards,
image, what it looks like.
Well, the big thing was being an ambassador for, that was something my mom said all the time, was you are an ambassador for every homeschooler in the world, every Christian in the world, every our family. And it really did put a lot of pressure on me as a person, and it was, I don't know if that was a good thing for me because I'm such a rebel. Like I think it might have been that like, excuse me.
No, you're not a rebel.
No, not at all.
Not with the hair, not at all.
No.
You're just not.
No, not at all.
I love it though.
But she was, she kind of held herself to a higher standard because she was the leader, so she held her kids to a higher standard as well. And I understood that, but it didn't make it any less frustrating when we went to the store. And at that time in my life, I was dealing with a lot of my food sensitivity issues, and I didn't understand them at the time. So I went from a size, I think I was going from a size 6 to a size 14 within 2 years.
Oh wow.
It was ridiculous. I just like, gained so much weight, and it wasn't like all in one place. It was just over my entire body, and I was bloated all the time. And she had this ruling, like, you had to be able to pull a handful of your jeans where they were too tight. Lord knows I can't do that with my jeans now, but that was a rule. So I would have to go up almost 2 more sizes to be able to do that. So I was like, well, all right, I'm just a fat cow now. And some of those trips just developed so much like insecurity with so trips to the mall or trips to the store or whatever for anything clothes wise was such a struggle because of those expectations I did not want to meet by any stretch of the imagination, but I had this expectation that I was supposed to follow, and I understand the rules, especially like as I worked at a Christian school for a year, and they had similar rules, not nearly as strict, but they had similar rules, and I had to be the upholder of those rules, and so that was a weird place for me to be in, because a girl would come into gym class wearing leggings, and that was against the rules, and I'd be like, they're loose.
Yeah,
and like,
big deal.
Like they would want me to have this girl wear an ugly t-shirt for the rest of the day because she broke the dress code. I'm like, I don't think it's that bad. Like, it was really hard for me to be in that place of this, maybe that's
judgment. Really, that's
exactly
ultimately what it boils down to. You become subconsciously a person who like judges other people for how they are.
Exactly.
But
especially
here's the crazy
when
part.
I would not have an issue wearing that. Like,
that's the crazy part. So secretly, I wanted to just wear certain things and feel comfortable in that, but I had in the back of my mind that it was too much if I did.
Even like as in your adult life?
Even in my adult life. Honestly, I probably haven't gotten as comfortable with just wearing a crop top or stuff like that. Probably not like the
and you
last
have an
couple
awesome
years.
body. Like, it's not like that you have anything to hide.
Well, I appreciate it. But it was just one of those things that even as a tall, slim person, I have insecurities too, though. I've been bred in my mentality to think that way.
That makes sense.
I don't know. And growing up and being, I don't want to say bullied because I was never really bullied. I had a mouth on me, so I could kind of. Guys would call me olive oil, like Popeye and spinach, or Popeye and olive oil. You know, the one who eats spinach, because she had this big head, but she had this skinny body.
When you're talking about like not wanting to wear a crop top or not showing off your body, do those insecurities still pop up a little bit?
So it depends on where I'm going.
Okay.
So now it's all about where am I going. So if I'm going to like a job interview, of course you want to be
you got to dress for the place
of what that is, and certain things as it pertains to church, like you don't want to go in there with skin tight. Well, I mean, if you wanted to, because you can, but for me, like, because I know my arms go up in worship, or you know, like maybe sometimes I'm on my knees in worship, I'm mindful of what that looks like to other people. Not that I'm trying to people please, but it's respectful of the environment.
And I think there's a fine line between the fear of others' perception of us and the respect of the situation you're entering. And I think it's really important, because some people are like, oh, I don't give a flying fart, I don't really care, I'm just gonna go and wear whatever. Sure. And the, you know, in a lot of cases I've heard the church say we'll accept anyone, and it's not always that case.
Exactly.
Yes, to a degree. I'm like, I don't imagine that a drag queen walking into the church I grew up in would be accepted. I can't imagine that. I would love to accept them with open arms. You like, yes, come on, like, sit next to me, let's worship together. Like, yes. No, for real.
Your seat is right here.
Yes, it's right here. Come on.
So one of the things that got me more comfortable with myself was at the beginning of the year, I started taking these aerial classes. That's basically when you're in the hammocks from the ceiling and you're swinging around in those. I had my instructor record me, and when I watched the video playback, I was like, oh, like, okay.
Okay, girl.
I'm starting to look at abs. I can start to see, like, you know, your body type and structure, because I had on like a sports bra, and God knows a year ago I probably wouldn't have ever really walked into a gym, for that matter, with a sports bra on and just like workout pants. That's how much of myself I wasn't comfortable with seeing. And I was like, you're over here gushing about the girls on Instagram and how fit they look. I'm like, girl, you banging too though. Like, you look amazing too. So I had to start complimenting myself and my body for like what it is and what it looks like. And I don't know, I'd start not to really care as much anymore.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a minute. The element of comparisons, like with online and just Instagram and stuff, Instagram versus reality. And these, I mean, you turn a certain way and you look really, really skinny. You got this popping booty, and then you like you're like slouched and you look like totally different. And that image, we have to make sure, and it's again that perception, that on managing our perception of what we need to look like based on this, like what we're seeing or what we like or what we think we have to achieve. And it's really the same thing that we grew up with this church mentality. It's the same thing but reversed. So it's like some of those tendencies of being able to just go with it, and rather than questioning why do I have to do this, or why do I not have to do this, or should I not do this, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
Rather than questioning that, we're just like, oh, that's the way I'm supposed to look. That's the weight I'm supposed to look like. If I don't have a body like that, then
I'm not beautiful.
I'm not beautiful. Exactly. Right. And I think that social media and just, you know, media in general has gotten better about that ratio of, you know, body types, and, you know, even just models nowadays, like the natural models, like that kind of thing I think it's really boosting that that level of expectation for that girls have kind of dropped themselves to, you know?
Yeah. You can identify yourself with someone now.
Exactly. And I've even been told that before, and I think I don't know if he was like, he's like, don't take this the wrong way, but like, your body is one that's a little bit more attainable for people. Like if they're trying to get to a weight loss level, I'm not some skinny mini. I don't ever want to be a skinny mini.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm
kidding.
No, I think you have an amazing body, but like I know that's not my body, and like I've come to a point in my life where I actually appreciate my body. I used to want to be that, and I recognize that was not a healthy place to be. It led me to a lot of negative things, a lot of negative perception together. And when your body is stressed and your mind is stressed and you have all these hormones and emotions, like how are we supposed to improve if we're not able to we don't learn how to manage those things that are out of havoc, you know? And I think it took time for me to learn that, but it all connected my opinion of myself and my ability to show off my body. Or even if I'm working out in front of my clients on camera and I'm like, I know I'm going to have a little bit of rolls here.
Yeah.
Like I've got skin, I've got fat on my body, but it's not bad. Like my body's still beautiful. Even if I'm sitting like this with my bathing suit on and I go, that's normal. And if you got cellulite on your butt, it's normal. Yes. And normalizing that and understanding it's not something you have to like fit into this category. Yeah.
So like where do you feel like you are now? Being 100% comfortable, or do you still kind of have those subconscious thoughts like when you're on camera, or do you just like you just only didn't keep it going?
I have the subconscious thoughts when I'm editing.
Oh.
Not when I'm recording, it's when I'm editing.
Okay.
So that was something I had to get over because it would always take me so long to record a video, and I actually got better at it when I started recording live because I couldn't change anything. I had to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And so that really did push me out of my comfort zone in that way, and it freed me. Yeah. And even just like, you know, developing my own perception around, you know, what was okay to wear, or, you know, like growing up, I couldn't go to the gym with the sports bra and, you know, shorts on.
I didn't want to do that either. And
I didn't own any of these.
Most people are looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, why wouldn't you? And it's just kind of like, but no. Like, even when it came down to squatting, I'd tie a jacket around my waist because I didn't want to be the chick in the gym just bending over in front of everybody, like trying to squat.
Yes, and honestly, there are some real animals in the gym, let's be fair. However, it doesn't mean that we have to walk in with that perception or fearing that attention based on our own upbringing or the beliefs that we were taught in our own upbringing.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of my perceptions were a little bit skewed in the way that I received them versus the way that they were communicated to me, and I think that is the biggest issue that happens.
Yeah, that's been mine.
Because it's not the intention of the person who's trying to set these boundaries or these modesty standards. It is, I mean, their intention is good, you know, ultimately, hopefully. But there are certain things that I think people develop their own perceptions of, and we have opinions of what that line looks like, you know? And that's for everything in life. Decisions and actions and, you know, opinions, everything. There's always a difference in line because of our perception, our upbringing, what we know, and what we believe. And so I think with the people that I developed, that I wouldn't say caused me to develop certain insecurities, or but maybe contributed to the level of scrutiny I felt I was under. I was in a dance group throughout all of high school, and there was, you know, certain standards that were held for me, but they weren't held for those that were skinnier or smaller than me.
What were your standards?
As in, like, you weren't supposed to wear leggings, and so I would wear yoga pants and a t-shirt, and I got reprimanded a couple of times that my yoga pants weren't. I needed a shirt that was going to cover my butt completely, but I wanted to wear yoga pants because I was too voluptuous. Word for word.
Wow.
And so in my mind, that word became a bad word. And it developed this perception of me that I was bigger, so I was lesser.
Right.
Or
right.
I was not able to...
Your body type wasn't accepted.
It wasn't accepted. It wasn't
Right.
something, oh, well, if you have this body type, you can get away with this. But because you're, curvier, you don't get to get away with this. It was, again, based on their perception of what this line is. They're like, oh, well, their line was only for me or those who are built like me, not for the other people that were not built like me. And it was something I struggled with for a while, especially in that group, because that wasn't the only thing that was, a little unfair.
Yeah.
But that was one of the big contributing factors. And even a dress that I wore to a dance that we would do, I asked permission because I wore it to another prom, and it was one that was like, crossbody, and it had a little bit of peekaboo, but it was like stopped at like right here. So it wasn't super low or anything. And I was like, hey, so like, can I wear this dress? And like my back was the only part of my skin that was really showing. It was a taper dress, so it was knee length and then went down like really long into floor length in the back. And so it wasn't any other modesty issues except for a little peekaboo in the back. And I saw girls wearing dresses like every year that were pushing those modesty standards.
Right.
And the line was the bra strap line, and it went like 2 inches below. And they said, oh, well, if you hadn't come and asked, we wouldn't have corrected you. But since you did, yes, you should modify that. Put like a panel there with material or something.
No way.
So I was just that resentment I feel like I built around the modesty standards because of those specific rules that were unfair in my mind.
Right.
And that was the perception that just, I think, corroded away. I don't know if that just made me want to push away more. But I definitely know when I turned 18, I wore whatever the heck I wanted to. I mean, even in high school, like I would wear other outfits on top of my outfits to cover up my outfits because I knew they were not going to be okay with my mom. So I learned real quick how to get around that. And it was this almost this challenge. It was this, it's the rebel in me, I swear. It was this challenge to see what could I get away with. And it was based on where I was going. Because if I went to church, obviously I wasn't going to do that.
Right.
But like, it changed my shoes, changed my shirt, like whatever. Yeah, no, that was like junior, senior year, I think, when I was just like, I was so fed up, and I had that resentment had really started to build towards those modesty standards.
At that
I think.
point, I can totally see why.
Yes, but I wouldn't say it was healthy, but I think it did help me understand.
It's okay.
I think it kind of set me into this, I need to get attention from people because of what I wear,
right,
rather than the opposite. Because I was always taught that I should be pretty much invisible. Like, you shouldn't get people's attention. You should wear something that doesn't get people attention.
But isn't that crazy? Like, growing up in the church, you shouldn't get people's attention, but you should also tell them about God.
Oh my gosh, I know. But it's like the kind of attention. Like,
I went through this phase where I had leggings on with everything. And some of my friends would be like, girl, you got leggings on with this dress, like take those off, show your legs off. Like, they wanted me to show off certain body parts because they're trying to tell me like, no, you look good, but here I am like trying to put a tube top under something so I don't have cleavage or something.
Okay,
like in a certain shirt, or like I'm trying to cut off my cleavage so you can't see cleavage, so I'm putting on tank tops underneath stuff or tube tops underneath stuff and leggings on under dresses so my legs aren't out and stuff doesn't appear too short.
Yes.
But I think they really tried to show me, even at that age, gosh, I don't even want to say that I was young. I feel like I was in high school, college when I was doing this.
Okay.
So imagine me holding
still,
on to that
still
for a
carrying
while.
those,
Still carrying
expectations.
It, still carrying it.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like they tried to break me out of it, but I'm like, but no.
Do you feel like you were comfortable?
I think I was people pleasing.
What people you were trying to please?
The church people.
Okay.
Yeah, and that image and what it was supposed to look like from that angle, especially because everybody knowed me to be, I guess, like the good girl, the good church girl. I kind of adapted that mentality, and it's like, no, but I really want to rebel against all of this. But I mean, the image that you're trying to uphold, it's this perfectionism.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your book real quick? So I feel like it's a good intro.
So yes, I am in the process of writing a book called Shedding Perfection. And it is basically debunking perfectionism and the fear that comes along with that, the self-sabotage that comes along with that. And it's a book that's healing me for sure. And it's bringing a lot to the forefront that I didn't know I operated in, or kind of questioned, like, why was I like that? And it's definitely one of those things where I'm just like, okay, Okay, it's hard conversations after hard conversation after hard conversation, but it needed to be had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the hard conversations are what help us heal more than anything else.
It's walking in truth. And I've been
is.
walking in a false sense of what I thought was the real me.
Yeah. And
so, yeah.
I love that you're being able to
I can finally
process
own it.
this and help others as you process. Like,
Right.
We walk through hell to help others through it, right? So like if we can help others with the journey
Yeah.
that we've had and, you know, shed some light, then I think that's awesome.
So thank you to you, though, because you had this chair fitness class.
Oh,
or
yes.
chair dance
It was so
class.
much fun.
That when we were allowed to record ourselves, I watched it back and I was like, okay.
No,
And I even got the audacity. I had the audacity to post a clip of it on social media.
Oh my god!
And I literally did not even care at that moment. I was like, oh, girl,
Church
you
girl
are
gone wild.
growing. It's like, girl, you're growing. But no, it's
awesome.
getting in touch with my...
But she got so much, she got so many people's interest. Like, she was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
so many women are struggling in the same way of that shame of, like, not being able to express their
Right.
femininity. And I don't think they understand that they can go to a sexy chair fit class, or they can, you know, do something that's, you know, learning a different movement to feel sexy or to get
Yeah.
stronger, to feel more confident. There's nothing
Absolutely.
wrong with that. Like,
Nothing, but again, a couple of years ago, maybe not even a year ago, would not have ever really had that mindset.
Yeah.
I probably would have just made the video, kept it to myself, never posted about it, never, you know, cared to, you know, do anything like that. But now it's like, you know what? I'm going to own this.
So what changed? Was it that walking in truth, or was it something more?
It's really more so just accepting of myself, Erin.
And your femininity and
Like even learning what that means.
There's nothing about femininity that implies weakness, really, other than, you know, being in touch with your emotions, unless that makes you weak, which I don't think it does. I think it makes you very powerful if you know how to process your emotions
And I
in a
had
healthy
issues
way.
with being vulnerable. Vulnerable meant weakness to me, and I felt like I couldn't be like that.
But again, it's that perception.
Learning to get to a place where it's okay to have help, it's okay to need help, and it's okay to say I'm not okay.
Yeah, and
It's perfectionism.
It's that but it's we think that something, even a word, means something that it doesn't. Or
sexy is not a bad word.
Yeah,
Sex is not a bad word. Sex is not a bad thing.
No, the perceptions that I think are based around. I don't think we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about our sensuality, and
it's this crazy narrative that we bought into, or this crazy formula that so many people have bought into, and it's really just one of those things that all boils down to, who are you? And are you okay with you?
And if you're not, why is that the case? Like,
deal with that first.
Yes. We're going to be talking a lot about this in our 6 Weeks to Sexy course we're going to be doing with Shamir, who is the instructor for the chair fitness class. She was amazing. She's going to be teaching the pole fit class, and we're going to be talking through weekly points of action and challenges that you're going to be doing on your own, but we're going to be talking about the end of class, reflecting on kind of what we've learned about ourselves in those elements of the limiting beliefs and those elements of shame or fear or surrounding our sensuality, our sexuality, and what is it that we believe that we don't necessarily want to believe anymore. So like, I want to ask you that, like, what is one belief that you have either abolished or you're working on abolishing, like a limiting belief that you feel held you back from being able to establish that sense of femininity, or, you know, being okay with you?
I held me back. I held me back because I worried about what it was going to look like to everyone else. I feel like that was the limiting belief I had, was that I had to have a certain image or uphold a certain image to look good in the eyes of other people. So I've held my own self back, and one of the things that's helped me is to, first of all, get you some friends that's going to tell you about yourself. That's what I'm doing.
Yes, get some friends that are going to build you up.
Well, get you some tough skin, because when they bring out the truth, it's kind of like,
you guys, if you were to ask for it, and you have to be ready for it. Like, that's,
and I wasn't always ready for it, but you know, here we are. I am. But yeah, I feel like I've held myself back, and one of the things that I've come to kind of just know and learn is like, just be confident, just relax, just be yourself. You have to make everyone happy. No. If it makes Erin happy, then it's okay. You know, like, it's okay as long as I'm not hurting anybody, or, you know, things like that, and I'm coming from a pure and genuine place. And I'm being honest, like 100% honest,
positive intention.
Because the truth of the matter is, I wanted to wear the short shorts. I wanted to wear the crop tops. I wanted to feel sexy. And not just because I wanted to show off my body, but because it was comfortable. And let's just be real, we're in Atlanta. It's hot.
It is so much more comfortable to wear less clothing here.
Going to the beach in a sweatsuit. For what?
Why?
It doesn't make sense. Like, there's nothing wrong with what you wear. And I feel like that was another thing that used to bother me, was that they talked so much about the don'ts, but they never talked about the content of your soul, like really what's operating inside of you.
Really.
And just showing you that God still loves you regardless. Not to make this, a religious thing, but
and I know, like, everybody has different experiences, and, like,
right.
Even different denominations vary in so many different ways on their levels of conviction on certain things. I even had friends who were allowed to watch certain movies. I wasn't allowed to watch those movies.
Yeah.
Like, those kind of things. Everybody's family was different in their
Right.
levels of clothing restrictions or modesty standards or whatever. So, like, I get that, but everybody's experience, sometimes, like you said, like, you didn't have that level of, this is what you do, this is the content of your soul, and that is really
so for
difficult.
me, that was, I would say it was me that held me back in a lot of ways as well. So
Yeah.
I don't really feel like I can blame that on anything else.
Yeah.
But I will say,
But that's a good thing, because that's you taking ownership of it, and ownership of the things that you are responsible for. 'Cause,
Yes.
like, I also think that we do take responsibility in a lot of ways, and we feel pressure for things that aren't our responsibility.
we carry so much of other
and-
people's stuff.
Exactly, and we even carry that when we're worrying about what other people think of us. We're carrying that level of perception, or that level of perceived negativity that they may feel based on your outfit. Like, I mean, or like, am I
did I
showing?
post myself
Am I
in
showing
that?
too much skin? Like, should I maybe, like, just do the cleavage and not the back? Maybe I'd, like, that like, depends on where I'm going.
No, seriously, it really depends on where you're going and what you're doing and, like, what you feel comfortable with.
Exactly.
That's all that matters.
And yes, I do understand that certain outfits are going to get me more attention. I'm aware of that. I enjoy getting attention. I don't mind it at all. But I don't need it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't. The biggest difference I feel like I've come to with, the early phase of rebellion and just wearing whatever the heck I wanted, because I wanted that attention. I wanted to see what that felt like, because I've never been able to really before. Difference, I'm now able to appreciate my body and wearing something for me. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Exactly.
Even if I don't get any attention from it, I don't care. Didn't have to. Like, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to wear it because I felt good,
Yeah.
And
when you look good,
that
you
level
feel
of
good.
intention, rather than, oh, I need to get something from this. I'm
Yeah.
just being me and living in my truth. You
Yeah.
know, that kind of thing.
Like I told you, I made those videos from that Ariele class that I took, and I was looking at my body type and body structure and just how I was moving in the video, and I was like, okay, so you're literally comparing yourself to what you see on Instagram, but in a sense, you look like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like learning to accept me for me, not trying to say I only accepted myself because I saw
Something that looked similar.
Right,
We
but
shouldn't
it's
need
just-
that level of comparison.
Right,
If
and not
anything,
to
the
say-
comparison is probably a negative factor in that.
and my mind
because
goes
we're
straight
like,
to a negative.
yeah, it's important
I'm
to know
working on
that.
it.
Like,
I'm in therapy for it, working on it. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just like, Erin, you got this too, though. Like, you got it. You're great. Like, you look amazing. Like, like boosting myself up because I've torn myself down for so many years.
Yeah.
And just being okay with being Erin, and being okay that I'm in touch with my feminine side, and that everything doesn't even have to be sexual. It could just be, I like the way I look good, I feel good, I'm owning it, like I'm confident, stuff like that.
yeah.
It doesn't even have to necessarily be about the attention or the sex or what it looks like to other people. It's like, what do you feel comfortable with, and how does it make you feel?
And being able to communicate that to yourself, or be able to understand that
Yourself
in a way.
first.
Yeah, yourself first, before you can communicate that with anybody else.
Because
And
have you
that's-
ever met someone where they just like Shamir? We'll talk about Shamir.
Oh my gosh,
There's a prime
Shamir,
example.
our instructor for 6 Weeks
Yes.
Sexy,
Is
she
amazing.
oozes sensuality and
Yes,
just
and she
confidence.
owns it, and she's so
and
confident.
she makes you feel more confident walking. It's not something where you're like, I'm comparing. You're just like, oh my gosh, I want to be like you. Like, it's crazy. She's just
No, it's just amazing to see someone that secure within themselves.
Yeah.
And they own it. Like, that's when people say, oh, I don't know, like the president walks into the room or somebody walks into the room and like they change the atmosphere. That's what they mean.
It's that energy that they
usually
bring
someone that's so confident within themselves, or they carry themselves a certain way that it's like, wow, like it's amazing.
It
It's
reflects.
inspiring. Yeah.
Yes.
It reflects. There you go. It reflects. I like it.
And that's like the whole like concept that I feel like personal development and people who come together and they're all working on their own personal development, whether that's internal like confidence and self-esteem, or if it's physical, you know,
right,
fitness or whatever it is. But if we're constantly moving forward and we're combining together and building one another up, we're reflecting off of one another, and that energy is real, and that's that
everyone's
mirror
leveling
impact.
up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's that constant level of like continual growth and building one another up in that, and I think it's super powerful. And like, you know, Shamir is a perfect example of that. And just
we're only saying her name.
That, like,
it's okay to say her name because she's going to be our instructor.
Yes.
Love her.
Shout out magnetic poles.
Hey.
Tag.
So how does one process getting from a limited belief mindset to freedom, basically?
So one of the things I like to use within both my virtual and in-person programs is your coaching model, and it's something that simplifies the process, but it doesn't limit you. So I always like to set that as a disclaimer, because like this isn't something that's the only process you're able to use, but it simplifies it, so it makes it easier. So we walk through the MIRROR acronym. So the first one is mindset, and being in that mindset of willingness to shift that perspective, shifting from that negative to the positive, or being willing to observe your past and see what in that may have contributed to the limiting beliefs that you hold now. And that willingness is really the first step. And then we identify that, and that's looking at what is one limiting belief. Start with one. What's one limiting belief that you feel you've held that is holding you back from that sense of freedom, like you were talking about, whether it be sensuality, confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, those kinds of things. And the second question is, who or what may have contributed in your past to that, and understanding that why behind it. Right. Because sometimes that why is really where it's misconstrued, because like we were talking about earlier, with the intention. Yeah, it's the intention of one person saying, oh, you might not want to eat that because you're going to turn into a fat cow. Said to me, okay, no, but it was real because it was gluten and dairy, and it was turning me into a fat cow.
I know, but it's still
such a horrible thing to be told as a 13-year-old. But that perception in my mind, or taking that, who or what maybe have contributed that, and what about that is really true, or how is it based in just whether it be something that is completely in your past, it's no longer valid, or that person may be no longer valid. I like to use the example of somebody, a coach or something who's pushed you, like they develop that mentality of pushing your body past its limits and not giving up ever, even when your shin splints are going crazy, you still keep doing sprints. But that mentality can sometimes stick, and then we develop this negative perception of exercise, that it's something we have to push our bodies and hurt our bodies instead of love our bodies through it. And that's something I deal with a lot with people who don't want to start fitness. They're in that contemplation phase, and they're just like, I had a bad experience, so I don't want to do it again. And so the same thing goes for identifying those limiting beliefs. What about it is constricting you, and is it really valid? Like, is it really valid, or is it no longer something you want to hold? And that's where that response comes in. We have 3 responses: release, repair, and overcome. And those are the next 3 letters. And that release is a lot of, there's different practices that we can do with that. But that first step is identifying it, and then starting to address it, whether it's the way that you're processing emotions in a certain situation. Maybe certain people bring this up a little bit more. Maybe you're learning how to process and communicate with them better, to where you're not holding onto that resentment, but you're expressing your frustration, releasing that resentment through communication. Right. Or if it's, one practice that I do is like when I'm having a day, or I'm just like feeling emotions I don't understand, I take about 5 minutes and I go sit on the porch, and I just think about, what is the emotion I'm feeling, why am I feeling it, and do I want to feel it anymore? Right. Like that. It's really just those 3 things, and learning how to. It's just those whole things. And it's taken a little bit of time to like learn how to do that. But even in my communication with Justin, or when I'm we're having a disagreement or an argument, we don't really yell at each other when we argue, but we had to learn early on how to communicate in a way that was like, I need a moment to process my emotion, because I'm an emotional processor. I will react to something instead of respond so easily, because I literally just Emotions, bam, like it's knee-jerk reactions.
Yep.
And I learned that was not healthy, especially in my marriage. So that was the biggest thing.
Period.
In relationships, period. Friendships.
Yeah, I struggled in that.
Yeah, and so learning how to process the emotions I'm feeling before I respond to them is like, that's been huge for me. So there's different techniques, and we're going to be talking a little bit about some of those in the 6 Weeks to Sexy class, I can't wait. I'm so excited. All the areas that I want to help people talk about are all in this class. Like, it's so great. The second response is repair, and those are repairing those perceptions, repairing those maybe the communication that you have with someone, or the opinions that you have of something, the beliefs. Like maybe it's just learning how to speak positively to your body instead of speaking negatively, or looking at videos of yourself and being like, you go girl, rather than being like, you're not good enough. Those little practices that we're like, oh, that's a really not a good behavior, I should probably stop that. That kind of thing. And then also that last one is overcome, and that's when the accountability and the boundaries come in, and setting those boundaries of, this is a place that causes me to feel this and this, and it brings me back to this place of insecurity, or this person that I'm around brings toxic energy, and I have to manage how much time I spend with that person. Or if it's a family member that maybe brings up some of that stuff, figuring out how to either resolve that issue, or maybe set boundaries to where you're not as involved in that everyday life of that person, that kind of thing. Right. And certain people, especially those of us who are a little bit of obligers, or we try to people please, can really get stuck into this, because we're like, well, that person thinks it's dumb I'm not eating sugar, or like that person thinks it's dumb that I'm wanting to wear a crop top now. The reflect portion is at the very, very end, and that's reflecting on all of the work that we've done so far in that process. And it's not an overnight process. It's one of those things that it's a coaching model. It's continual. It's not just down the list and you're done. It's a continual process of being like, okay, am I in a place of being ready to understand what I need to change, and to figure out how to change, set the strategies in place to change, rather than just wanting it. You're doing something about it, and I think that's really, really important.
I love the doing something about it, because a lot of people, even something as, I don't want to say simple, but I guess to me, going to therapy, people don't want to do the work of what they're digging up, so they stop. Yeah. I have been a product of that as well, like starting something but not finishing it, whether it's procrastination that holds me back, or the fear of failing that holds me back, or just, whatever negative thing I could think of at that time, it holds me back.
And all those things are the limiting beliefs that come in that contemplation phase right before action. And I have a whole other podcast I will link below on that, by the way.
I'm going to be watching that one.
It's called Contemplation to Action, actually.
Teach me contemplation to action. But no, it's simply just waking up and deciding to do something. Not getting overwhelmed with the fact that it's going to happen all at one time, or that you can control it, or you can fix it, but just finding little things to do day by day that's going to push you forward.
It's the consistency.
That's the C word.
It's the C word. Literally, that's all it is. Yeah. Consistent action creates consistent change. And that's what we, sometimes fall off on. But the consistency needs that level of accountability, and that level of, people, because we can start something consistently based on excitement, but excitement doesn't last very long. And that's
what's going to keep you going.
Exactly. Like, and that's when we understand that why, and like, why am I doing this? Why am I digging into this? I want to become more confident. I want to become more satisfied with who I am and my truth. And that is my end game, and I don't want to stop until I get there. And like, understanding that is really important, what your why is, because that's going to keep you going.
And whether it's physical or emotional, there, it's going to be be another level of it that you're going to have to.
Oh, yeah, it's not a stopping point.
Yeah.
It's a constant journey.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
We're not trying to get to a destination. We're trying to enjoy the journey, guys.
Yes, it's the process of it all.
It is. And that
learning to embrace it.
Yes, and embracing the people that we're walking through it with. And that's like, I
support systems are like hands down the most important
and the people that you like. We have the ability to surround ourselves with the people that we surround ourselves with. Mm-hmm. I know that some people are like, oh well, these people are in my life and they're just these friends that are not necessarily encouraging of your personal change. You have the ability to surround yourself with those people who are constantly going to bog you down. You do. or you have the ability to go out and look for people who support. In addition, doesn't mean your old friends are gone. It just means that you're intentionally surrounding yourself. And even just like the weekly classes with the pole fitness, I think is going to be a really great opportunity for these girls to network. Absolutely. Yeah. And for all these women have that initial goal of wanting to gain confidence.
It's not about the sexy dance
class.
It
isn't. It's about how you feel inside.
There you go.
While you're doing it.
It's been great.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much for joining me
Of
today.
course. Thank you for having me.
I'll link the info for the 6 Weeks to Sexy course below if you guys want to join. It's going to be some amazing conversation each week. It's starting on July 13th, so registration is open. Please sign up. There's only 10 spots available, and we're 2 of them, so get on it.
We'll see you then.
See you then. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.